Hi everyone. So for today's demonstration, I'm going to demonstrate how you can use some of the new features available in the 13.1 release of Simple GIS Client, which is our desktop GIS mapping application, to create dynamic and interactive presentations that can be published out as a portable map document using the Simple GIS Collaborate plugin extension for our Simple GIS Client product. And this portable map document then can be opened with a freely available simple map viewer application that can be shared with colleagues or clients or any other users, and allows you to actually share your maps and data in an interactive and dynamic way with other users without them having to purchase any kind of software license, since the simple map viewer application is a free download. So to begin with, for today's demonstration, I'm going to create a new project, and I've already launched my Simple GIS Client application, which I have up at this point in time. And so I'm on the new project menu, and of course this is giving me several different templates I can choose from for various base map that I can have preloaded into my map if I so choose, rather than just creating a new empty project and adding the data itself. I'm going to go ahead and create one of these projects based off a template with some preloaded base map data. And the particular template I'm going to use is located here in the lower left corner. If you can see my mouse at this location, and it uses the Stamen Terrain web mapping service. And so if I just simply double click on this tile, I see that it's going to create a new project, and then it loads in that web mapping service as my base map already. And so this is the base map I'll use. Now, this is just the base map. What I want to do is add some additional data into my map that I'm actually going to use to some of these new features that's available in 13.1 to show how you can do an interactive and dynamic map that can be shared. And so what I'm going to do is I want to show for the U.S. state boundaries the percentage of each state boundary that's covered by land versus water. And also I'm going to show the housing income statistics by state. And so with Simple GIS Client, it already comes installed with a shapefile for all the U.S. state boundaries. And within that shapefile, it has fields in there that represents the coverage area for land versus the coverage area for water. So we have those fields, but it has none of the housing income demographic data within that shapefile. And so what I'm going to use to get that information is one of the data wizards that is built into Simple GIS. And it's located at the top. If you locate the pull down menus at the very top of the application, and it's underneath the data download wizards, and it's the very first one called the U.S. Census Wizard. Now this particular wizard will pull demographic data from the U.S. Census Bureau's American Community Survey 5-year data set based upon the fields that you choose. And so if I select this menu option, of course I get the new dialog box that pops up. Now I'm not going to go into details on this particular data wizard, because there are other video tutorials that will cover this in detail if you're interested. But for the purpose of generating our interactive application, I'm going to use this to get the demographic data. So for the states, I'm going to come to the very top, and I'm just going to select all of them. So I'm just going to click and drag down the list to select all states. And I have my level of detail already set by state. And then for the demographic data that I'm going to use, I'm going to come down and I'm going to use the income, the housing income by consolidated range. And so it's going to give me the housing income by these different income ranges. And as I click apply, I'll get a file dialog box that'll pop up, and I'll just need to enter in a new file name for my shapefile. So I'll type in a new name, and I'm just going to abbreviate household income, put a dash, my state boundaries. And as I enter that, click Save. It's now going out and it's querying the U.S. Census Bureau for this information. And once it's done, then I'll get a confirmation box that'll pop up asking me if I want to add this shapefile to my current view, and I'm going to select yes. And so I have this new layer that's added to my map. I'm going to change the legend on this layer, and I also want to change the layer name. So I'm just going to double click on the layer here. And for the layer name, I'm simply going to call it State Boundaries. And what this actually did is it uses the shapefile that comes installed with Simple GIS that has all the state boundaries. And that shapefile, as I mentioned earlier, already has an attribute fields, one for the area of land versus another that has the area of water. So we already have those fields. And so it takes that same shapefile, creates a new shapefile with all of that same attribute information, and the census data wizard uses that shapefile and then appends additional fields that contains the demographic data that we chose to query. So now all of that data is in this single shapefile. I'm going to go ahead and change the legend for my shapefile, and I'm going to double click because I don't want to hide my nice base map underneath these boundary polygons. So I'm going to use this particular shapefile symbol. Let's see, one of these is transparent, has a clear background. I believe it may be this top one. So I'll use this one with the blue border, and I believe it's this symbol that has the clear background. One of them is a solid white versus one is just a transparent clear. So I'll click OK, click Apply, and I think I chose the wrong symbol. That's okay, we'll change it back. So I actually chose one that has a solid white background. So I'm going to come back, double click on my layer, go back to my Legend tab, double click on the symbol, and I'll choose this particular symbol here. Click OK, click Apply, and that's the symbol that I wanted. So let me just pan in a little bit around the area that we're going to be working in. Maybe a little bit further out. And so at this point in time, what I want to do is set up a couple of tools that's new in the 13.1 release, that when we publish our portable map document, it'll be available in that application as well for when we want to share this map. So the first tool is this quick search bar that's located in the upper right corner, just right above the table of contents for the map, if you can see my mouse. By default, since it's not configured yet, it just says quick search. If I actually click in this box, I get a confirmation saying it has not yet been configured for this map. Do you wish to configure now? And that's because I need to set it up to be used. And again, some of these tools I'm not going to go into great detail on them because there's other videos that cover it more in depth. I just want to introduce it to you and how it can be used to create these portable map documents for sharing with other users. And so yes, I want to go ahead and configure, so I'll click yes. I get the quick search configuration box, and it gives me the list of available layers that I can configure for a quick search. So the only shapefile or vector-based layer I have loaded is my state boundary, so that's the only layer you see. So I'm going to select that. I'm going to add it to my search layers by clicking this little button with the double arrows pointing to the right. And now I just need to select the attribute fields that I want to use to be able to search on. So I have two fields I'm going to use. One is called this STUSPS field, and this contains the state abbreviations. So like Georgia is GA, South Carolina is SC, etc. So I'm going to select it, move it over, and then I also want to be able to search on the name field, which is the full name of the state. So it would be the actual name spelled out if somebody was to search by that as well. Now I'll click apply. I'll click apply again. And it's now configured, and I can test this by simply coming in here, and if I was to select KY for Kentucky, hit my enter key now, and I see in fact that it does work. It highlights and then zooms to the state I selected. Same thing if I was to spell out a state name completely, like Ohio for instance, and hit enter, it would then select that state and zoom to it as well. So our quick search function is now working. So the next function that I want to add is our data panel, our data explorer. So one of the new features available in the 13.1 release is an improved data explorer panel for visualizing attribute data for your layers. And so if you look in the very bottom right corner of your map document, if you can follow my mouse, you should see a button that says Show Data Panel. And if you click on this button, again, much like the quick search, if it hasn't been set up or configured yet for this particular project, because each of these are configured on a project, actually a map document by map document basis, since you can have multiple map documents within a single project. But anyhow, it's telling me that it has not yet been configured, and do you wish to configure now? And I'm going to select yes. Again, it's going to give me a list of available layers that has associated attribute data. So that's the qualification for being able to set this up, and I only have one, which is state boundaries. And so I'm going to select that layer, and I'm going to move it to my Data Explorer layers using, again, this button with the double arrows pointing in that direction. And as I do, I get a dialog box to set this up and configure it. So the very first edit box I have is the title for the chart I'm going to use to plot this information. And so if I wanted a title for this, I'm just simply going to call this one Household Income, and let me go ahead and by state. If I want to uniquely identify, you know, in this case my features obviously are uniquely identified by the state. So if I want to use, if there's an attribute field that has that identifier that I want to use to label on the charts, I can select that. So in this case, I'm going to use the STUSPS field, which is the state abbreviation. And I only want to display data for the selected features. So this would only graph the data for the features that are currently selected in the map. Now here's the available fields, which all be listed here are numeric fields that I want to add to my my chart. So in this case, since I'm using a selected features only, more than likely what I'm going to do is just use this bar chart. Right now it's grayed out. I can't change it because to use a pie chart you have to have more than one data series, and right now I don't have any added. So essentially this plot fields represents your data series in your graph that you're going to graph. So I'm going to start here. Here's the demographic data that was added. You know, less than 25,000, 25 to 50,000. These were the fields that were appended to my shapefile that had that demographic data. And so I'm going to start choosing these. I'm going to move them over as data series by selecting it and then again clicking the button with the double arrows. And I see that it adds a new data series here underneath this plot fields. And I'm actually going to change the label. So I'm going to double click on the label to edit it and just make this a little more descriptive. And then I'll just continue to add these one by one. As I do so, now I see that I can change the chart type if I wanted to, but I'm going to leave it set to a bar chart. So I'll continue to add these different data fields or data series. And I don't particularly like the color that it chose for that. It just randomly generates colors. So I'm going to change this one. You can easily do this by simply double clicking on the color, bring up the color dialog box, and you can choose a different color if you want. So just a couple more to add. Last one. And like I said, the color scheme, you can change it, obviously. This will be the color of the bars in your graph, and you can certainly change them if you like. They're just randomly generated colors as you add it in. The other thing I want to do is I want to normalize these values. So instead of seeing the raw statistics in terms of number of actually houses that whose income falls within this range, I want to normalize it and show it as a percentage of the total. So for instance, I want to know what percentage is less than 25,000, what percentage is in the 25 to 50,000 range. So I'm going to select this normalize box, and then I'm going to click apply. And I'm actually going to add state boundaries one more time because I want a separate graph that's going to show the breakdown between the coverage area for the land versus the water. So I'm going to have state boundary selected. I'm going to add it back in. And I'm going to give this a title, land area how do I want to say this? Coverage land versus water. Something to that effect. So again, I'm going to use the same unique field for this one. Use the state abbreviation, and I want this to be set for the selected features only as well. And now I'm going to use these two attribute fields, which is a land for area of land and a water for area of water. I'm going to add them as data series. Change the label. May even change the color for the water. Make it blue to kind of match for the water. Now I'm going to normalize that as well so it shows as a percentage rather than the raw acreage values. So now I'm going to click apply, and I'm going to click apply again. And as I do that, you see that the map re-rendered, and it added this new data panel here along the side, and it's already graphed. And since I had Ohio already selected, so here's your household income distribution. So you can see that roughly a little over 20%, it's less than 20,000. And then the largest percentage distribution is in the 25 to 50. And so you can see your nice breakdown. And then if you scroll down on this box here, because our graph is obviously cut off, if you had multiple layers, it would just continue to add them in the scroll box. And you can scroll down and see the breakdown between the land coverage of land versus water. So in this case, obviously, as in most cases, the vast majority is covered. It's just land. There's only about, looks like a little less than 10% of the area covered by water. So what this would do is, if you wanted this, well, accidentally hit my mouse wheel and zoomed in, didn't mean to do that. So if this was actually a application that you wanted to share with colleagues or client, they could download the freely available map viewer application and view this, and then they could simply come in here, type in a state name, and as they did so, or an abbreviation, it would zoom to that state and select it and actually show you the distribution here on your graphs on the right hand side of the data panel. So now if we were ready to publish this, I'm going to go ahead and unselect everything. So I'm going to select my state boundaries. I'm going to come up here to clear layer selection. And as I do that, you see that nothing is graphed here because nothing is selected. And I'm going to zoom out to an extent, kind of the starting point for the users whenever they open up this map document of where you want them to you know, the scale and the extent of the map that you want them to see. And so what you could do at this point in time, zoom in a little bit, is I already have the Simple GIS Collaborate plugged in loaded in this particular application. And if you're interested on where to get these plugins, one way to get it is simply from the File menu. If you didn't already have it, there's a Plugins underneath the File pull-down menu. If you clicked on that option, you would see available plugins. And you could actually, here's a Simple GIS Collaborate, and as I click on it, you see that it knows it's already installed. If you didn't have it, you could go ahead and install it now. Of course, there is a separate price for it, a relatively modest $35, which is a perpetual license for that current version. And you can just simply click the install now to actually install that plugin if you didn't already have it. It may require restarting your Simple GIS client application once it's installed, but that's one way to get it. The other way is actually from the website. Assuming you already have Simple GIS client installed, just simply come underneath the products menu and scroll down through the products. Here's the Simple GIS client application, and if you come on down, here is the plugins. And you can click on the view available Simple GIS client plugins. You see here are the different plugins available. And the Simple GIS Collaborate plugin is the one that we're using currently right now to generate this portable map document. So I'm going to go back to our application, and now underneath Simple GIS Collaborate, I'm going to come here, and it's the menu at the very end called Simple GIS Collaborate, and a little bit of a quarter of a way down there's a menu option called Publish Portable Map Document. I'm going to select that option. Here you would select the folder where you want to publish the portable map document to. I'm going to enter the file name for this new map. So I'm going to call it, I'll just call it Sample Presentation. And I'll click Apply. And it actually has published this. Now for these portable map documents, it's important because it takes all of the data in the current map and it compresses it and saves it all into a single file. To cut down on the amount of data that has to be compressed and saved within that file, it helps to use these web mapping services as your base maps. Otherwise there would be a great deal more data that would have to be compressed and saved, and it just makes the file size larger. Obviously, though, it can certainly be done if it needs, you know, if the users that's going to use a portable map document are going to be offline. Obviously, then you would need to use something else for your base map. You can certainly do so. It just increases the size of the portable map document itself. So at that point in time, it's saved. Now the Simple Map Viewer application, if we go back to the website real quick, if I go back to the products menu, and if you scroll down to the very bottom, you'll see the Simple Map Viewer application. And so again, if you had a colleague or clients that you're preparing, this presentation for, and this interactive, this is a free download that they can use to open up that portable map document. And if you click on the viewer details, you can even include things like if you use custom data forms on your shapefiles, which is another feature available in Simple GIS Client that allows you to link in photos or other documents or even videos. All of that gets published with the portable map document as well. And so all of that can be included as part of your portable map document in your presentation. And so they simply download this, install it on their computer. Again, this is a free viewer, so absolutely no charge with that. And then they can open up that portable map document and view what you've published. So I'm actually going to go and launch this now on my computer. So let me minimize this. And I actually have, here's the simple GIS map viewer here. If I was to double click on this to actually open up, this is the actual portable, the simple GIS map viewer right now. And so if I wanted to open up the portable map document we just saved, I can come here, go under File, Open Portable Map Document. It's going to bring me to a file dialog box. It actually, because it remembers the last place where you opened anything from, and this is a folder I use for all of my portable map documents I generated. So it brought me to that last folder, and here's the presentation that we just published. The single file here has an SPMD file extension. And so you just simply select that file, click open or double click on it. And you see it's now opened into this particular map viewer application. And so now they can view all of this information and they can use it. So if we have set it up, and specifically you notice when we set up these data portlets to view the demographic and the land coverage, we have set it up to view by selected features only. And so if you had something where they could just simply come in here, they could type in the abbreviation or type in the full name if they wanted to for the state they're interested in, hit enter. And of course it would select it, zoom to it, and then give them the distribution, in this case for the housing income and then for the land coverage, as we can see here. So again, abbreviation or by spelling out the state name in either case. Now obviously as we go to, like, for instance, a state like Florida, you notice for the land coverage, obviously the water percentage increases significantly. In this case, it's looks like about a little between 15 to 20% of the state is covered in water. And so this is one way to give your clients and others, access to your work. And again, it's an interactive and dynamic presentation. They could even do things, since we have this set on selected, and it doesn't necessarily have to stay this. A user can change this if they wanted to see whatever states were visible in their current area. If they were to click on that, it would actually show them that. And you would see that in this case we have Alabama, so we've got the southern portion of Alabama visible, so it actually showed the demographic for the housing income for it. We have Florida, obviously, Georgia, we get the southern edge of Georgia, Louisiana. We have a southern corner of Louisiana visible, so it went ahead and plotted it as well as Mississippi. If you wanted to do all features, you could do that as well. Now, this is going to be unreadable in that case because, when you have this many different breakdowns by state, if I was to click on that, the bar chart's not going to be readable. And just for demonstration, that's what it looks like. So yeah, it's not readable at that point. But again, using selected, it gives a way for them to do that. The other thing they could do is they're not limited to just selecting a single state if they wanted to compare multiple states. So if they wanted to compare Florida and, just for instance, South Carolina, they could use this select feature tool. And since I already have Florida selected, if I hold down the shift key and just click on South Carolina, it adds it to the selection, and now I can compare those two. And so again, that's why we say that it provides a way for a dynamic and interactive way to share data with your colleagues and clients. So I think that pretty much concludes it. That was the most of the information I wanted to actually present in this particular demonstration. Hope it was beneficial, and until next time, if you have any questions, please visit our website. That website, again, if you simply go to simplegissoftware.com, that will bring you to the website. Thank you, and have a good day.